Okay, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay, I will introduce a new program, which I announced the GitHub link over Canvas. I hope you got that already. If you haven't, just look at the Canvas. I think it was, yeah, this link. Yeah, I said participation today, team registration. That's the link. Okay, you should download that and try to compile it. If you have any question for compilation, we will go through that. So let's take a look at this directory, what this program is doing. Now, let me try to see if I can stabilize my mic. Okay. So my objective today is try to introduce you this program. This is the program, first program is using two concepts. One is called JSON. The other one is called JSON RPC, Remote Procedure Call, which you will use this program to enter your team name and your student ID using the JSON format and then submit that to the server, which is this computer. So this is directory. If you download more, like looks like this, and let me try to just compile it. Okay, so now you see that I generate. If you look at the make file, I have two executable. The first executable is called RT client. RT stands for registration of teams. RT client, and the second one is RT server. All right, and now I'm going to let my client talk to my server. So let me run the server over here. Let me run the server. So I run the server, and then I'm going to run the client. I want you to take a look at the result on both sides. Okay, when I run the client, it actually talks to the and send a message to the server, and this is the return I got from the server, which later, if you run the program, you should actually get the information. So the information will contain a bunch of information. The first one is about your registration. Your registration will have a team name that you're going to have, whatever name you have. I'm just basically put a random team. You have to decide when you modify the program. And also, I have a list, an array of student ID, which is belong to this team. So with this information, that if the server replies successful, that means this registration has been confirmed, and both the participation credit and the team has been confirmed. Of course, later if you want to change the team member, that's okay. We can always modify that if both parties agree to do that. And then there is another one, which is the timestamp, which is saying that when this was received. So this is from the client side, and from the server side, it's pretty much the same information. You can see that I have the information that for the last one I got, and then this is the server that's actually running over there. Oh, some of you already submit some of you must have already run the client program, right? Yeah, because I only run once and then it has 3. So that means you must use it. Okay, so this program has a client side, has a server side. Can any of the students who already submit earlier regarding this one using this program, can you try to go to rtclient.cpp, try to modify the team name and then try to resubmit. I want to see if you can get that right. Then I know at least one student has no problem. So what I'm saying is go to rtcline.cpp. Inside this program, there is a one line here. I says my JSON team name is equal to my team name. So I want you to replace my team name. At this moment, don't worry about student ID, but just change that name to whatever something else you want to do. And then recompile the program and then run that RT client again. On the first, make sure that at least some of you can do that, then I will. Thank you. Narwa. Who submitted this? Narwa? No, it's not me. One of you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so okay, this particular thing, of course, you haven't sent a student ID. I don't want you to put your real student ID yet, because whenever we do the student ID, this part cannot be recorded on YouTube. Okay, so I have to make sure that when you do that, I'm not going to show the log over here to reveal this is a privacy issue. Okay. All right. So more or less, you probably know what the program is doing. So we have a client side, we have a server side, and we use some kind of JSON to do that, which is, it is about time for me to talk about JSON. And then this is also help you to know how to handle homework 2 properly. Okay. All right, I'm gonna, somebody say something. Erica, Dancing Queen. Okay, that's good. Okay, I'm gonna kill this. Well, I will leave the server running here. Okay, that's fine. If you want to try it, because some of you might be so talented, you crash my server. This server is kind of weak. I have a stronger server, which will check everything. This server is kind of weak. So it's vulnerable if you try to launch some of the attack. But I want to keep the server client simple. So because this is the first client server program you probably ever see in C++ object programming language. Okay, so let me go for the client side. Let me actually tell you what is remote procedure call. So what is a procedure call? Procedure call usually is saying that, well, I make a function call, and that function call must belong to my program, meaning that either in one of the CPP file or it's actually in one of the library file. So it has to be there. The linker has to link that piece of code into that, so I can actually call that function. That's a traditional single procedure call. So remote procedure call, that's what they call RPC, remote procedure call. That's basically the dominating web paradigm for doing this kind of web programming, is that the caller of the function is actually in one program, which is in this case is client, and the function, the real execution of the function is in another program. So essentially, we take a program, initially they're in the same spot, and now we kind of split them into 2 different programs. Like in this case, one is client and one is server. And the server can handle, by the way, can handle the call from multiple. Like I make a call with my client program, but many of you actually submit the client program to connect to the server as well. Okay, so that's actually pretty useful. You can think about today when you access a web server, that's essentially what we're doing using this remote procedure call. Okay, so essentially, after you learned about RPC, you can easily write code to develop all kinds of server based on the web protocol. Okay, it's very powerful. You can have a lot of interesting application. So let me first tell you, it's not that difficult, not that complicated. So let me tell you how big is the code. So if you look at my client code is, I think it's 51 lines of code. And my server code is 82 lines of code. It's a very small program. and I already can do client server this one. So I'm going to today, my objective is going to teach you what it is. How do you actually write such a program using this JSON RPC, which you're supposed to install for your homework assignment number 2. Okay, let's take a look at the let's first take a look at this piece. This piece is the code that you need to modify today in order to submit. So let me just tell you what you need to modify. We need to modify is this few line, this 3 line. See, there is a team name you need to modify. There's a student's ID number 1, student ID number 2. If you happen to cannot find a 2-person team, you want to have a 3-person team for now, that's okay. You can include another student as well. So you can have a 3 student. Okay, so you basically, the code is, this part of code is what I call the JSON programming. I kind of encoded the information using the JSON format, which some of you have been programming in Python. You probably already know how to program in JSON, but I assume most of you probably never did. So I will briefly tell you how to handle JSON over there. And then after you finish the JSON, this is the first time you saw me using this try and catch clause, which at this moment, you don't need to understand what is try and catch. Try and catch is for exceptional handling. So we will talk about exceptional handling is a big part of this course. I will talk about that after we talk about inheritance. Okay, right now we're still in inheritance. So don't worry about this. This basically, the important thing is this function. The function is called register team. Register team is a function I would like to call, but then I said my client dot register team, sorry. Meaning that, okay, my client, if you look at the notation, my client is an object. And then my client dot register team is actually using an object-oriented paradigm such that it will pass the call from this client called rt-client.cpp, go to the other side, which is the server side. Okay, so just remember this name, register team. Let me actually show you the other piece. Let's try to compare what they are so you can see how it's connected. So this is the server code. The server side has a class called server, okay, has a server, and then it's using single inheritance. It's inheriting from something called RT server, which I will tell you how do I get to that. But this is the server. You can see that I have a constructor because this line, my RT server, this is a constructor. And then you have a function called register team. I haven't teach you what is a virtual means. Okay, so neglect that virtual because for this purpose, if you have without or with virtual, it doesn't affect your understanding about the code. But anyway, there is a 1-member function called register team. And over here, I'm calling register team. So essentially, this one, when I call register team, is actually going to call being passed by that object-oriented interface defined by my client. And that is going to call all the way to the server side, the upside, and then call that particular function. So that particular function is, okay, here is the definition of the function register team. You see that this is belong to this class called my RT server. And inside here, it takes 2 arguments. The first argument is called action, which is a string. The second argument is called JSON value, which is the JSON object. I'm going to teach you how to do that. So you can see that the register team has 2 arguments. Okay, and it will return a JSON value. It's taking a string and then you can see how I call it over here. The first one is a string, and the second one is a JSON value. And then it will return the JSON, which is a result, what is a result? Sorry, just want to show you what is result, what is JSON? You can see that both my JSON and result are JSON column value. Okay, so just to let you know that JSON column value defining a particular class called value class, which that value class is a very useful class. It helps you to organize all kind of JavaScript object notation object. Okay, so okay, at the like a 20,000 feet high, we actually see that I have a client program. I define a bunch of things for JSON, and I call a function, and that function will see to me there is a magic trick I'm playing here, and such that it will automatically connect to the server program. And then you can see that I'm actually calling function here, but it's actually executing on the other side. Okay. The other thing I do want to tell you is that the mechanism I make these two things happen together is using HTTP protocol. So HTTP protocol is a standard protocol for web programming. So you can see that I define my HTTP client, which means that where I'm going to connect to, I provide this what we call URL, the universal resource locator, meaning that my client, when I want to do any kind of web request, I'm actually going for that web address. Okay, and that web address, it happened to be, I mean, some of you might know, I'm using a service called NGRock. And NGRock allow me to specify a URL. So whenever you use a URL, whenever I'm running, that URL will direct to my server. That's why any of your computer, if you're, let me check if I have anything. I better not check because you might submit already your student ID number. But basically, whenever you submit, it actually talks to my computer. Okay, so when I close my computer, then you will lose all your connection. Okay, so that's the URL to allow us to talk. So you can imagine if you replace this URL with whatever your own local URL or a URL from Google or Facebook, essentially you're writing a program that interacts with Google and Facebook or whatever you want to interact. Right? So it makes the internet become part of the object-oriented world. Okay, it's not just a single computer. Okay. I'm just going through like a 20,000 feet. Now I want to go down, but before I go down, let me tell you what I'm going to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what is JSON. And the second thing I want to tell you more in detail about the JSON RPC. How do I actually make the client server, that function called register ting, they really be able to connect? How do I actually do that? And then I will go back to the program in a little bit more detail, explaining the server side. The server side is more complicated than the client side, so I will spend some time on the server side. And then we'll let you to submit your student ID. Okay, that's my plan for today. Any question at this moment? Okay, so may I ask a question to everyone? Or maybe at least you have one computer available for each of the team. Is that okay? And then the second question is have one of you from your team have already downloaded the registration team package from GitHub. Okay. And the third thing, have you compiled successfully? Anybody try to compile but fail? Okay, all right. So let's spend some time because it could be a compiler, could be a makefile issue. What was the error message you got?
It was about the JSON.
Okay. Can you bring your computer over here? Can you bring your computer? What question? You have the same thing, right? Yeah. Please come over here. Yeah. I will help you. Sorry, just 5 minutes. This should be really quick. Okay, so okay, I have to find where that one is. Okay, so yes.
Oh, no, sorry. I'm so tired. Yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, got it. Okay, so I will go to my make file. And I will change this.
Okay, well, we can add it later.
How do I modify this, this one? How do I modify that? Yeah, okay, so I'm going to do this.
Yeah, let's go.
USR okay, and how do I save it? Control S. Okay. Now okay, it's a one, right? It works. Okay, all right. So I'm going to announce to everyone. Okay, so if you have the I believe if you have a Mac, you shouldn't have any issue. But if you have Windows WSL machine, the make file, sorry, the make file over here, you have to change this line. This line to, I believe Windows Linux is usr/include/JSON CPP. If you actually replace this line with this line over here, become -I user include JSON CPP, you shouldn't have any problem. Just that's how I do it.
I did replace that, but I still have, well, that was the first error. Then I replaced the line, warning error.
Okay, this one is the first arrow. If
Yeah.
you have a string, str string length,
I did replace that.
okay, can I go? Sure. I know there is another string issue. Let me type it in again. Okay. So this is a string str and str. I need to include string.h. So I am going to. Do you have Emacs? Okay, can you modify the ecs36b underscore common.h? Okay, modify whatever. Okay.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's good. This is the okay. Now I'm going to do this. I would say include string. Okay, can you save it? And then let's try to run it again. Go back to the terminal. Okay, let's try to run it again. Okay, all right. The second question, the second problem, this happened only to some environment. You have to, you can modify, if you have like a string length kind of arrow, go to ecs36b common.h. And over here, I would say just add. So you can see there's a strings.h, there's a string, but what you need to add is a string.h in order to get some of the library. But this doesn't have to be there, but for some environment, I have to explicitly say you have to include string.h. Okay, so all three, strings.h, string.h, and string, all three. You still have question? Okay, let's check.
I know. Oh, I have a discussion for you. Okay, that's right. Yeah.
Oh.
I don't know. I think okay. Okay. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I don't. So, it's just, I'm really bad at it. Oh, yeah, I'm not worried. I'm really basic just like.
This is user review JSON CPP, right?
Is it like?
And then I have JSON. That is everything is here JSON. Then why?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't know what the response is. Yeah, it's like, that's what I studied, but I'm good at shooting. Oh, truth is, I know, so I'm like fine with that. And then when shopping, I know the functions. I'm just like. Oh, yeah. I don't know.
You saved this already? Right, you try to link. Oh, for some reason, it still says minus capital I. Are you saving in the same directory? You might modify the menu. Okay, try to check on that, okay? Yeah.
No, that's okay.
Okay, so this means you haven't installed JSON RPC because this is the program, the part one of homework two. But I will talk about that later, okay? So you haven't installed JSON RPC. Yeah.
Oh.
No, if you have a JSON RPC CPP, sorry, if you have a JSON RPC stub, no such file directory, that means you haven't finished part one of homework two. I will talk about that at the end of the class, okay? If you see anything like a no such file JSON RPC stub, that means you haven't done the homework one. I'll talk. What's the issue? That's okay, that's okay, but this is not okay. Oh, the big stuff, okay, then that's okay. Warning is okay. That's okay. Yeah. Warning is okay. No, you already compiled. It's already done. Yeah, it's already done. You just say /RT file. Don't put this. No, don't put this. Yes. Warning is okay. Yeah. That's okay. Warning is okay. No, that's actually that's okay because VSC has some problem. VSC is not perfect. It has that error. Okay. Okay, good. So if you haven't, it seems to me that the only problem we haven't resolved was the student who hasn't actually installed JSON RPC CPP, which is enable you to actually do the remote procedure call, which I will talk about how to set it up. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about the JSON. What is a JSON? Okay, so first I want to tell you what's the syntax of JSON. This is very simple, only like this like a 10 line, basically represents all the JSON syntax you need to know. So the first thing is, what is a JSON value? A JSON's value could be either string, number, object, array, true or false, or null. Okay, at this moment, you don't want to worry about true, false, and null. That means they are either true and false represent a Boolean value, and null represent usually means that it's a key value pair, doesn't have any value. That's why it's null. Okay, so that's the part. And then I will talk about object and array a little bit below. That's more complicated, but the real basic data type is string and the number. So string in JSON is actually, the syntax is double quote. So anything between two double quote is a string. And anything without the double quote and with all the digits is a number. Either an integer or floating point, doesn't matter. But then if you have a string, which is not a number and without double quote, that is a syntax error. Okay, then that's an invalid JSON. Okay, so a JSON, the basic value type must be string, number, object, array, true, false, and null. Those are all the possible values. Okay, so now I want to tell you what is an object. So an object is anything started with a curly bracket and ended with a curly bracket. That is an object. Okay, anything with a curly bracket and then curly bracket finish is, and within that curly bracket is what we call key value pair, one or more key value pair. So what is a key value pair? A key must be a string. And then the value is actually going to be one of the 6 or 7. I put it there. Okay, so you can have a key, a value could be a Boolean value, could be an object, could be a string, could be a number. So because the compiler will know whether this is a one of the 7 type, so it will decide, okay, what to do. So you can see that what is the object? Object is syntactically is in between a pair of curly bracket, and within the curly bracket, it contains one or more pair of key value pair. The key must be a string. And then with a colon, and then the value could be any one of those, okay, syntactically. All right, so the last thing I need to tell you is what is an array? An array is basically in between a pair of brackets. And within the bracket, you can put whatever value you want. Okay, so again, when I say value 1, value 2, it must be one of the value, 7 value I put up there. By the way, in C or C++, when you define an array, this array could be the same type. Usually you say array of something, that something must be the same type. Array of integer, array of GPS location, array or whatever. But in JSON, it's a weak type. So in JSON, you could have array of different type. I can have array. The first element is a number. The second element is a string. The third element is an object. That's okay. That's actually, as long as you are valid. So the JSON array is not a typed array. By the way, JSON doesn't really have a type. Later you will realize that that's the difference. Okay, so that's the very simple introduction of JSON. Any question? Okay, so now let's actually take a look what we just did. If when I run this program, run the client, you can see that this is a JSON. The whole thing is a one single JSON. That's actually being as a return value from, let me actually tell you what is this JSON. Let's look at the code. I want to go back to the code again. So the remote procedure call I just did is this line called register team. Okay, when I call this, it actually returned a value called result. And what is a result? Result was defined over there is a JSON object. Okay, it's a JSON object. We just say JSON colon value. That's the JSON CPP library. So I'm actually getting a JSON and see what I did. I basically just do using cout. It's a standard C++ output, string output. I said result.toStyle string. I basically convert the JSON to a string format and then print it out. Okay. In fact, I think I can probably just call a result without even toStyle string. I haven't tried that, but it might also print it out. Okay. So let's come back here. Now I want you to actually take a look. This is maybe one of the JSON you have first time. Okay, so now this is the one JSON. Let's try to parse it. Okay, so from the most outside layer, what kind of value is this? Remember, we have a 7 value, right? What is this? Is this a string, number, object, array, or is a true or false or null? Those only have a one of the 7 value. What kind of value we have from the most outside here? It's an object, right? From the most outside is an object. There's 2. That's why a to-style string kind of give us a nice tag for us to see different level in the JSON structure. Okay, so I have an object that's actually being produced by the JSON RPC. Return this back to me. Okay, remember I said, what is a JSON object? JSON object contains one or more key value pair. So I want to ask you, just take a look at this JSON. How many key value pair being included in this JSON object? How many key value pair in the first level? Don't go more than the first level. How many key value pair we have? 3. Yes, thank you. Yes, we have 3. The first key value pair, I'm only talking about the key. The first key is registration, right? Key is the first one. The first key is registration. What's the second key? Status, right? And the third key is time. Okay, so we have a 3 key. You can see that it's separated by 2 comma here. Okay, so we have a 3 key value. That's good. Okay, so now I want to ask you from here, let's look at the second key value pair. So the key value pair has a key and then has a value. What kind of value we got here? What is one of the 7 value? It's a string. That's good. That's good. You got it. So this key value pair is a key is a status, and the value is a string. Okay. So now let's look at the first one. The first one looks more interesting. So the key is registration. What's the value that associate with the key registration? It's an object, right? It's another object. You see that? The registration column after that is another pair of curly bracket. So essentially the value of the key registration is what? Is also an object. Okay, then within this object, how many key value pair we have? So every time you saw a key value pair, every time you saw an object, the first question is how many key value pair? So for this particular object registration, how many key value pair? 2. Thank you. The first one is student, the second one is team name. And the team name, the value is a string. And how about the first key, students? What's the student's value? All right, great. Okay, you got it. Okay, so by doing this, you see that JSON is a very simple syntax, but it can represent a very complicated data structure because it can go multiple. You can have key value pair, the value is an object, and the object contains array, and the array might contain object as well. Okay, so you can actually go down multiple level, and you can actually pretty much represent every single object in C++ using this format. Okay, any of the objects, C++, Python or Java, any object you can think of, you can actually using this format to represent. Okay, so this is sometimes we call intermediate representation for our object. Okay, now with this very simple syntax. Okay, any question with the JSON? Okay, so let me now tell you that how I can actually get to this. So for example, if I want to access, let me just using this example. If I want to access, this is the second student ID. the second student ID 9A7654-321. Assuming I want to access that student ID, I want to tell you that it's very easy for me to access. Let me go to the client. So I'm here, okay? So remember, result is the one I want to print. So let's see. Let me do this. std cout. And then I will say result. What's the first key? Sorry. The first key is registration. So I will tell you that the first one I'm going to do is registration. And what's the second key? The second key from the registration is students, right? Is student. And then I have an array. Array then become, say, 1, because just like a C, array always start with 0. So if I say the second element is registration like this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is this. I think this might be enough, but I'm going to do something. Because I know that what I'm going to get from here is what? Is a string or is a number? Let me see. It's a string. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to say this dot as string. And then I'm going to say std and line. Okay, I'm just want to access, say, hey, you have a JSON object like what I just showed you. I want to access each of the element. One of the way to do that is just using the key, the chain of the key, from the result to the student to the index. And I want to interpret this as a string because it should be a string. So then I print as string. Okay, and let's try to compile this code and see what happens. Okay, you can see that now I actually get this string over here. Okay, so I'm basically using that example, I get access to a particular string. So essentially, this is programming for JSON is that you have to understand this structure. This recursion, if you actually see that, but it's definitely a finite level of depth you need to deal with. And then basically with this, you can use this code to access to that. Okay, so that's my very basic introduction. So now let's go back to the code. Let's go back to code and see what I start with. I want to introduce a few lines. So I create, so result is the JSON I actually receive from the server after they do the processing, but I need to send some information over there. Remember I said there were two things I need to send over there. One is the string, the first parameter, and the second parameter is a JSON. So I need to prepare for the my JSON, which is your part. So my JSON is a string. And take a look at what I did. The first thing I did, I said my JSON team name because I want to provide a team name. So I said my JSON team name is equal to whatever team name. So essentially when you modify, you construct, let's actually do this. If you do this, let's try to print std cout. I would say my JSON and then dot to style string, and then std and line. Okay, you can see that I create this 3 lines of code. I kind of put things into the JSON called my JSON. And then I basically just print out what is a JSON looks like after I shuffle 3 things into this. Okay, so let's try to. So when you run it, you can see this is the shuffle. You see that this part is the code. those three lines just have. The first thing is it has a key value pair called team name, and then it has a key value pair, but it's called student. The key is a student, but the value is an array. So let's take a look at how I did this from the code. This is exactly the three line. You see that I take my JSON, I put a key value, and then I basically put the whatever team name I want. And then I basically put the student, and then I put an array. And when I did this is 0, the compiler actually know, okay, I'm actually going to treat this as an array element. So they know that after the students, it was an array. It should be an array. That's why I have this 2 array. Okay. Any question? Now I want to ask you a question because this is going to be sometime I like to ask in the midterm exam. Okay, for your attention. If you're a C programmer, not a Python programmer, have you ever done this kind of this is actually looks like what in C syntax? This is like an array, right? This is an array. When you're taking ecs36b, what kind of things can you put in between that bracket when you want to have a C array? It's only integer, right? You can only put integer. You cannot put anything else. But then I want to ask you that why suddenly in C++, I could actually start putting something else, such as string over there. Why is that in C and C++? Okay, I'm kind of, the question kind of vague, but the answer to my question is related to some of the concept we actually covered before we talk about inheritance. What concept we talk about before we talk about inheritance?
I think I have an answer. Is it because strings are considered objects in C++, or is that like?
No,
okay.
no. Anybody want to try? What topic in your textbook, chapter 12? Operator overloading. Okay, operator overloading. See, that's C++ doesn't change the whatever you can put the string, but it does introduce a concept called operator overloading, which is the chapter 12. Why I have to talk about chapter 12 before I can start talk about JSON is operator overloading. You can overload everything except a few, but bracket definitely you can overload. Okay, so bracket, this pair of bracket is considered operator in C++. So this is really powerful. Later, when we have a chance, we'll look at the source code of JSON CPP. In the JSON CPP, they basically overload all the bracket operation in such that you can actually handle JSON very nicely, just like what we did. So you kind of operator overloading in this sense is a good example that we actually be able to kind of putting something almost looks like we're writing Python program, but it's actually very clear that we're just handling the key value pair. And key value pair, by the way, is one of the most useful data structure that we need to look in 21st century as a programmer. Okay, all right. So is that good? This is your first introduction for JSON. Okay, I want later we'll tell you more detail about how you can implement. By the way, it's not that difficult after you took this class. You should be able to implement your own version of JSON CPP library if you want. Just doing a lot of operator overloading, and then essentially you will be able to handle this. Okay, all right. Any question? I kind of went pretty fast. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's replacing the pair of brackets. So it is
Also, that one bracket starts with
a pair.
two.
No. In the, let me give you an example. Do I have anything? Okay, good. I will use JV time. So I could use let me use this. So this is the JV time is a class, and I already have operator overloading for equal and minus, right? I have a 2. I can actually make this. I can say virtual, okay, virtual, and then I say JSON value, because it's JSON value, and then operator like this. And inside here, I would say it's a string. Okay, this is, I'm actually overloading the bracket in the array. And in the case it's array, sorry, in the case of array, I will do this. But over here, I'm going to put integer x, okay, or IDX. You see that this 2 is different operator overloading because of the argument is different. And then by doing this, I will be able to overload the semantics of those 2. Okay. Of course, it's more complicated than that, but you take a look at the JSON CPP source code. It's available. You can do that. Okay. Okay. Any question for the JSON RT client.cpp? Let me just quickly let you go through one more time about what we have. So let me tell you that I kind of neglect, I put a lot of detail in ecs36b common.h, which you don't need to worry about that. This 2 line related to JSON RPC, remote procedure call, I'm going to cover that. And then this is just creating the HTTP client. And then I create 2 JSON value, and I set up my JSON over here, and I send that through the remote procedure call called register thing to the other side and get the result back called result. And then that's it. That's everything I need to do. And then I do have exceptional handling, but I'm not going to talk about that right now. Exceptional handling will be dealt with at the second part of the quarter. Okay. And the syntax I have included in the RT client.cpp. I probably haven't uploaded, but this version, but I will upload it after the class. And that's the syntax. Okay. All right. Is everything okay? So now I'm going to go for the server side. Okay. How do I actually get the server and the client together? All right. So RPC remote procedure call is essentially saying that, okay, I have a 2 program need to talk to each other. One is the server, one is the client. In this case, I have the server, you guys have the client, right? So it's a 2 program. So essentially, when you have a 2 program, they need to talk to each other, you must have some kind of protocol you need to define between these 2. And that protocol is called RPC protocol. And that protocol basically specifies what kind of function is allowed for you to call and what kind of parameter you need to provide for that call. So in RPC, we have a program over here. I actually want to show you what it is. The program I have to specify the protocol is called ecs36b rt.json. You can call anything you want, but in this case, I actually call this name. So it is a JSON format. So I want to clarify, I use this JSON format to specify the protocol between the client and the server. So if you look at the the specification. It's a JSON format. Is essentially what? An array, right? The outside is what is an array. So essentially, this protocol is providing an array of remote function you would like to conduct. In this case, I only have a one function, which is a register T. That's only one function. But I want to show you, if you go to the master directory, if you look at, let me see, ls, okay. If you go to this program, ecs36b, s2024.json. This is the function. You can see that I have a two function. Outside is still an array. But inside this array, I have a two element. Each of them is an object. And the first element represents the first function called update. The second element has a function called search. So essentially, in the master directory, I actually define a remote procedural call for two different functions. But for this example, the ting registration, that's only for one function. So let's actually go back to that function. So this function has one function, and the function has a function name. The name is register ting. Okay, that's the name of the function. And then I have the parameter. The parameter has two things. One is called action. Action, because I put it this way, this is a string. So it means that the first argument is going to be a string. And the second argument is your JSON. I only put a pair of bracket, a pair of curly bracket. That means the second argument is an object. It's a JSON object. So that's why the first one is string. The second one is that match whatever the parameter we have in the function call. And again, the return value is also a JSON. Okay, return value is just always give you a large JSON that's returned to you. So that's how I actually specify the protocol. You can see that it's not that hard. You're not specifying this kind of network protocol. You're specifying the function signature that's actually between the client and the server. Okay. How do I do with this? So remember, a few of you see this error message called RPC, whatever stub, right? RPC, what do you call that? The function? Let me actually directly go to the make file. So the first program you can see that is, JSON RPC stub. This is the program that some of you haven't got installed correctly. But this is the program that's actually going to read the specification. And then you see that this program is going to take the ecs36b rt.json, and then it provides some kind of name. And this program is going to generate a file called rtclient.h. And then this program is going to generate rtserver.h. So essentially, when you have that RPC protocol file for that particular function, that the program JSON RPC stub will automatically generate two include file for you. And then those programs you can use it together. So let's first take a look at our rtclient.h, which is used by rtclient.cpp. Let me just first, let's still go a little bit slower. Let's go back to this code. If you go back to this code, this is the code I already showed you. And you can see that I include in this line, I include rtclient.h. Okay, that's the code is being generated by JSON RPC stub program. So let's take a look what is that program looks like. So take a look at this piece of code. This piece of code basically say the first line, it says this file is automatically generated. Don't try to modify, okay? So this is basically read from the JSON file I show you, it automatically generate this file. Okay, and if you look at that, it has defined a class called rtclient. And then inside the RT client, they have a function, which is the function that we need to implement. It's called register team. And take a look at what is a register team. It's basically taking the first argument action, the second argument, your JSON, and put it into another JSON P. Okay, so essentially, when you call the function, you thought you need to put 2 arguments. But internally, they actually, again, put this 2 function into another big JSON called P. In this case, JSON value P. By the way, this is completely implemented by the generator code, not your code, not my code. And then after you have that, you can see that this is the line. You say this call method, and then this call method is actually putting this P over here. And then this will call the other one and get back the result as a result JSON. And then that's essentially what they're doing. I won't tell you this, there is an exceptional handling because it will check whether the return is valid. If it's not valid, I'm going to throw some exception, but we don't worry about exception right now. So this code is actually generated through the JSON RPC stuff. So you can see that it really make a lot of web programming. They use JSON everywhere. Okay, by the way, when people develop this style of programming, they just realize that, okay, I want to use a JSON to represent the data structure. I want to use JSON to represent the function call. I want to use JSON to represent how to encode my parameter. Okay, so essentially it is a very applicable to every single level of programming at this stage. Okay, any question? Okay, by the way, this part is pretty challenging. I know I kind of go through this very quickly, but I will suggest you play around with this code. Okay, how much time do I have? Okay, so now I want to just quickly go to the server side, and then I will let you try to submit because I'm not that. So this is the RT server.h. This is again the code that's actually being generated. You can see the first line. RT server.h is generated by JSON RPC stuff. And inside code is actually generating a class. And then with this class, but this class will be inherited by my server code. Okay, so I define some in this code generate says RT server. And then if you go to .cpp, then essentially over here, you see that my RT server inherit from RT server, which is in that RT server.h file. And I will tell you that why you cannot directly use it later, okay? But right now, you just know the basic structure. I inherit from that, and then I implement the rest of my server. Okay. Okay, I think I should stop. I will come back and teach you more about this subject. But at this moment, I want you to try to submit your program to get to what I'm saying is this is your program, and I want you to put over here, change this name to your team name, and then put your student ID number. Okay, if you already have a team of 2 people, 3 people, submit it. If you don't have a team, you only have 1 person, please raise up. How many of you don't have a team member yet? You don't have a team. Okay, hey, please, can you actually talk to each other for a few minutes? And then try to submit one. But in the worst case, if you still cannot find a team, you can change the team membership later. Just submit a single student team. Okay, I can record your participation credit. You can have I prefer 2, but just extreme have a 3. I might if I know there's a 3, I know there's somebody, I will try to rearrange. Okay, yeah. So give me 1 second. Let me turn off my recording so I can actually start to